It's milder, then it gets warmer.
Carol, thanks so much. We'll hear more later. See you later.
There's a man in the studio, Carol probably heard him a second ago, will not stop talking. He just sat down and immediately is like this, is rabbit, rabbit, rabbit.
Sorry.
How are you, Jamie?
It's lovely to be here. I've never been to the BBC Media Centre in 25 years. I don't know how. I mean, I've been to White City, obviously. The coffee is good here.
It is.
Everything works.
Yes.
It's very snazzy.
Jamie Oliver, did you get the special request BBC porridge?
I did.
Did you?
Yes.
What was the verdict?
Well, it was perfectly edible, but you don't make porridge with milk. You make it with water, and then you put the milk at the end. So it kind of was a little bit like trendy porridge, but not proper Scottish
Have
style.
we passed this on to
I've been taught by Scots to do it properly.
OK.
Yeah, and it's
But
a beautiful thing.
Look, come on. You may have a little bit of expertise in the food area. I'll give you that. The whole idea, and this was the whole thing when you came onto the scene, don't judge people when it comes to cooking.
No.
Just get them to enjoy food.
Never.
So you just
don't put milk in your porridge.
You just went against that.
No, you can put milk in.
You can. It's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, first of all, before we talk about your new book, your first children's book, congratulations on the renewal of the vows.
Thank you very much. She turned up
Jules.
in shark-infested waters.
We'd best explain, because you went away on a wonderful trip to renew your marriage vows in an exotic place.
Yeah, I wanted to do it on 20-year anniversary, which was 3 years ago. COVID obviously put an end to that. And I just felt that with the kids leaving school, going to university, got 2 in Leeds at uni, it was just a nice moment to sort of let them know that their parents are tight and we love them. And it was, you know, I know it sounds that maybe some people are into it, some people are not, but I have to say the vows second time round are much better.
Why?
Because it's like you've earned what they mean. Like everything they say, you've done, felt, good, bad, ugly, and there you are 23 years later going, oh my God, we did it. Like now it's part 2. So for me, with a big family, it felt like a nice thing to do. And I just put a few pictures on Instagram, but you know what it's like, that bang, it's like gone everywhere.
And to be fair, you scrubbed up pretty smart, didn't you?
I tried, yeah.
You was the pale blue, ocean blue suit?
My original suit was Paul Smith, so I got the second one adjusted by a few inches. Just thought that was a little nod to the past. I didn't have the snakeskin loafers on, it was all barefoot. But it's very nice.
Very nice.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your book, because this has been a long time coming, I'm hearing, because this comes from a time when your children were a lot younger and you were sitting next to them making up stories in your head.
Yeah, I'm dyslexic, so words to me have always been quite scary. I've always had a chip on my shoulder about it. It's sort of, that was a problem at school for me, learning.
Were you diagnosed at school, or did you find out later?
Afterwards. But like, I'm classic, racing words, good days, bad days, letters round the wrong way, can't focus. So my whole life since leaving school has been about problem-solving the things I'm bad at to be functional and to be able to do what I want to do. And the great thing for the kitchen was that the kitchen genuinely did save me, because school was tough, but in the kitchen I could learn, I think of it like little bubbles of knowledge, like how to prep one thing, that's a bubble. And that's the great thing, where you can take anyone and teach them how to cook.
So the option of reading a book to your children, that was out of the question.
It's tricky, because quite early they get better than you. So they go, Dad, don't read a story, do it from your head.
Yeah.
And with a lot of kids that struggle at school, they have incredible imagination, but they can't get it down on paper. And obviously with technology now, and I mean, even my first 3 cookbooks I wrote on dictaphone. Each chapter was a tape, you know, and then I could kind of design it and make it work. So, for me, that this was finally brushing the last chips of off my shoulder.
Did it really feel like that? Because
massively. This is the most important book I've ever published for me emotionally, because it just feels like, right, now I've fully got out of the baggage of how kids feel when they're not made to feel like they can learn properly at school.
It sounds like you're getting quite upset now talking about it. What? Just because, I tell you what, this is important, because someone will be watching, there will be a kid watching now, there'll be a parent, a very frustrated parent watching right now going, what do I do, either about my own dyslexia or my kid's dyslexia? And for you to say, this matters and it weighs on you...
So all I would say is not to show off. I'm the most published non-fiction author in the country. We publish in 96 countries around the world. You know, like, I was the kid at special needs. that struggled with conventional learning.
Were you separated from the other
Completely.
kids?
And I think that if you need proof that anyone can do it, and you've got the 500 words writing competition coming out now with the BBC, it's an incredible thing. If you're that kid that struggles, don't worry about it. Like, think of it differently. Like, the way I do it is I try and visualise it. I didn't write a book, I wrote a script. Like, get little stickies, get it up there. Like, have a really simple story, like simple music. You don't have to be complex. Leave the complicated stuff to the big boys and the big girls. Like, try and visualise, sketch things, take pictures. Create little top trump characterizations and just join the loops and think of little rhythms and funny little quirks, and you will do something incredible. And there's no right way to do it. Like, school as we know it was kind of invented by, I don't know, a couple of priests or monks like hundreds of years ago, and it needs a revolution anyway. Because there's so many kids that are left by the wayside.
Yours is an extraordinary success story, given what you describe. What is the moment you're taken back to? You know, you said you feel like it's that moment when you can breathe properly for the first time in relation to that. What's the moment you're taken back to of the how bad it was in terms of how you were being treated?
I just think when you're a kid, you've got hormones going everywhere, you're trying to fit in, like, you just want to be normal. So when you're extracted from things and not made to feel normal, and you feel like you've constantly not normal, then it's the way that you explain it. So, yes, there's parts of many isms, whether it's ADD, ADHD, this, that, and the other, that can be strengths, but there's lots of challenges. So you need to just have the tools and the support from adults to give you the tools to problem solve around expressing yourself.
And it wasn't there.
And delivering. And it wasn't the school's fault, because it was a happy school, but they weren't. We know how the brain works now. We know where the gaps are. We know the difference between schools that are facilitated correctly. We know what teachers are like when you support them properly, how they can support kids. So I think, you know, if we're talking about levelling up as a country, it really does start in education. And it does start with taking kids and allowing them to shine and do their thing, really. And I think, for me, that's why cooking really helped.
So you've explained how you did cookery books, fine, because you know the creativity of recipes and it flows out of you. When you got to the point where you said, I want to write a children's book...
I didn't do that, actually. Okay. I just did it to put my kids to bed. And the reason
they were the stories in your head.
I recorded the stories because I kept forgetting what I did the night before, because I was dreaming of gin and tonic. and I'm like, I just want to go to bed. But then when I had them, I looked at them, and it was that weird time in lockdown. And I started thinking, like, as a growing adult, like, how do I develop myself? And I tried to, like, 10 minutes a day of just sitting down and focusing, which I can manage 10 minutes. I can manage 10 minutes. So over the course of 4 years, I built the 14 chapters into 12. And I cleaned it up and did the best I could. I was pretty proud of it. Then I took it and presented it to Puffin, like completely, like, nervous. And luckily, the big boss there, she saw it straight away. Like, that's what she does. And she's like, right, come here. And she, with my editor, mentored me, allowed me to steer the ship, but just allowed me to be me, but actually deliver a book, design the book, pick the right fonts for dyslexic kids.
Was it scary in terms of, like, because it's almost like going back to class, isn't it? Being told, no, that's not good enough, but in a much more collegiate way, I suppose, from an editor, because they're on your side from the start.
I love bad news, and in my daily job, everything's about how can we do it better, how can we improve it. It's never like, oh, we're so good, this is brilliant. It's like, no. Like, so I love trying to improve and polish and make things better. And I think with storytelling for kids, like knowing the audience, just like with my cookbooks, like whether it's £1 Wonders, which the show's just been on air, which is, you know, creating a whole series where recipes are under £1 and working with the 4 big supermarkets to get the average price and have them available, you know, to try and have... So really thinking of the reader, that's what I tried to do with the kids' book.
Can you, Jamie, can you read your own book? Is that a silly question?
It's tricky, it's tricky.
Is it really?
I can do it. It takes me about 5 times longer than, say, an average person.
Because you have to just concentrate to the max.
And the benefit of that is I can be quite analytical about it, but I've just got to make sure I don't fall asleep, literally.
Who are you reading your books? Who are you going to read this book to? Because your kids are all grown up now.
Well, I wrote the book for your kids. If you want a safe place where there's wonder, where there's nostalgia...
With beautiful illustrations.
Yeah, beautiful illustration. The design, the font was geared to really help kids that struggle with writing as well. And there's lots of nuances in there. I put loads of effort into the audiobook. I believe that we've done the best audiobook of the year. We've created sound effects. It's the first immersive Dolby Atmos audiobook ever made in the world. I've got actors, rappers as characters. I've written the music and the song. So I've tried to make it as visceral as possible. And like when I used to get bored reading, just because of the way my brain worked, that's where the audiobook, either on its own or in tandem, is amazing, because you feel like you're there, you can almost smell it.
Do you know what? It's quite funny having you here, Jamie, because as you say, it's the first time on the sofa. When you're talking to us, I think you sometimes kick into your chef mode, because you quite often start addressing that camera, don't you, directly?
Well, the light came on, so I'm like, hello.
You're like, you automatically start doing your thing. Can I just say, there's any book that has a fight involving pickle is all right by me.
Respect.
Because that's, who doesn't love pickle?
And a Scotch egg.
And we're not going to give the details of the pickle fight away?
Well, no, you can give. Basically, it's set now, talking about a real story in the 80s, and there's a magical world. And in the magical world, there's a thing called the rhythm, which is essentially a word for the environment. And everything in this world, everyone has to contribute to the rhythm. So what's beautiful about the book is it's funny, it's a little bit sassy, it's adventurous, there's gadgets, there's food hidden in there, but just cool things happen over food. It's not like pushing it or sort of sugary. But really, it's a story about how do you contribute to the world that we live in, and mirroring the world that we live in now that we recognise, and the one sort of untouched by humans. So it's quite bonkers and wonderful, and I'm really proud of it.
I feel like we could talk to you all day, Jamie. Do you feel like, as you're getting a little older, do you feel like you're calming down?
Does it look like it?
Well, no, I was going to say, or firing up more in terms of all the big stuff that you're involved in. Do you feel like you've got lots more to go with?
Look, I think, like anyone that's 47, like, you're always thinking, have I still got anything to offer? You look in the mirror and brush your teeth and go, who the blimmin' hell is that? Look at that hair. What's happening to those wrinkles? Like, you know, am I, you know...
Some people don't.
I just want to be useful, really. And I think that's... And I think that I'm very lucky. I get... The job I get, if I apply myself, I can be useful all the time. When we did £1 Wonders, like, the cost of living crisis happened, so we did turned a show around in 3 weeks to do £1 Wonders, because the press were giving us a little bit of this. So then we did a whole series of it. So when we did the lockdown show, we turned around an uncommissioned primetime show in 16 hours, shot on phone. And my wife was my camera lady. So I try and be useful. But I think what's amazing with the world of food is I've always struggled with the kids bit. And if this works for me, this is my dream. If Billy and the Giant Adventure works for me, it is an amazing ability to inspire kids in food and the world that contacts food. You know, I always believe that our kids thrive in all kinds of colourful ways if they get close to mud and growing and filth and plants and the wonder of cooking, whether it's biology or history or photosynthesis or the water cycle. You know, like, my dream is that Billy can be used as a tool to inspire kids to think that actually loving food is normal. And by the way, kids are not born genetically to love nuggets and burgers. Like, it's called marketing. So, you know, so for me, I've had the books allowed me to have a fantasy world that puts things that grow and life and friendships in a really good place. So hopefully it works. You never know. I'll be honest, I'm excited for today, but I also feel quite vulnerable.
You've exposed a lot.
It's not my game, right? So got my first book signing in the Arndale today at 2 o'clock. I don't know if anyone's going to turn up.
I think they will.
Well, come out, do an old man a favour.
I tell you what's interesting is you've woven yourself, your love of food, through this bit, pickle or mixing red and brown sauce or, you know, whatever. And you've spoken about the dyslexia, you've woven that in as well, and that's all you. I wonder when, look, we were looking at those beautiful illustrations. I think the illustrators, Monica and Minyo, how much trust? Because, tell me if I'm wrong, it feels as if you might like a lot of control over things you do.
Yeah, but
how do you trust someone, you know, to illustrate, to kind of reflect that?
I've learned as a dyslexic to be very, very aware that people are better at me than a lot of things. So I try and see myself as a connector, a congregator, a facilitator. I casted 300 people to get down to 4, and there's this Spanish girl, like, she's never going to...
So you looked at 300 illustrators?
Yeah, whittled it, got it down to 4 that were banging, and then, like, so a Spanish girl is going to know the nuances of the nostalgia of 80s and BMXs and little dice on your spokes and all of that, and she smashed it. So, and bless her, like, I've only met her online. Like, I mean, the publisher has a direct relationship. I I Instagram her and DM her, and she's like, oh, look, I'm really shy. Like, I'm like, don't you worry, sister. I like shy people. Let's crack on this one. So, just the way I send her little bad sketches or little photos of things, and then she has her. This is her expression, and if you look at like the front cover, which is just like debossed, embossed, it's got foil on it. So since day one of publishing 25 years ago, and a lot of people say to me like, oh, how do you sell so many books? Care. Like, I lived in Penguin. Like, I went to the factory. I chose the paper, the font, like the design. I sat there staring at screens. I chose every picture when we had transparencies, and you know. So I think like when you're a dyslexic, the ability to get in the bit, get in all the details and try, because when I look at a page, it's potentially frightening.
Yeah.
So cherishing white space. You can use 50 words to describe something or 10. And there's no right or wrong, by the way, because if you can embellish 50 and it makes you feel a way, God bless. But if the cookbook's about business, crack on, I'm busy. Honestly, I spend 45 minutes getting 3 lines to 1 to say more. That's tricky. So that's what I do. That's what I try and do, and that's why I try and make my.
It's lovely having you here, Jamie. What you don't know is that because you haven't ever been on Sofa before, the rule is that chefs or cooks have to bring food in when they come in. That is a rule, but I don't think anyone told you.
If you have a pan and some 5 ingredients.
Oh my! Why didn't we think of that? We could have had a
kitchen's upstairs. We should have got you into the kitchen.
Would you like me to come back?
Yes.
Because in September...
It was a yes. A yes on the floor.
Someone's hungry.
What do you want to do?
Well, I've just finished a series last year. It's 5 ingredients Mediterranean, which my PR will now be punching something because I'm actually not supposed to say it. But it doesn't matter because I just did it.
It's an exclusive for BBC.
But that comes out in September. And we felt after lockdown to get out of the studio and go and get inspired by one of the healthiest sort of areas in the world. So from Tunisia... Greece, Spain.
Well, we can have a cook-a-thon.
We can do that.
5 ingredients.
Only with food. Only welcome back.
My pleasure.
First time in 20-odd years.
Thank you so much for having me.
And look, thank you, because you've kind of exposed yourself today. You said you felt vulnerable.
Yes.
But I think you've mattered. I think you've made a difference already before the book's even read. Yeah,
yes,
only with food. Only welcome back.
My pleasure.
First time in 20-odd years.
Thank you so much for having me.
And look, thank you, because you've kind of exposed yourself today. You said you felt vulnerable.
Yes.
But I think you've mattered. I think you've made a difference already before the book's even read.
I appreciate that.
So the book is called Billy and the Giant Adventure, with a pickle fight.
There is.
There is a pickle
Of course. Morning Live is after us, around 9:15. Of course, Gabby and Gethin are in the hot seats. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Huge pickle fan.
Oh, I love pickles.
It talks about pickles a lot, don't you?
All the time.
All the time, yeah. Tell you what, lots of people are talking about at the moment.